On the previous topic, we learned the components of structured experiences, which are goals, group size, time required, materials, physical setting, process, variations, worksheets and instrument forms, handouts, and credits. Today, I am going to present the examples of designs where we can apply the following components. I will be presenting two examples, which are shades of difference and parole board. This design introduces the participants to the various aspects of communication known as metaverbal. Examples are tone of voice, pitch, and use of pauses, as well as nonverbal components such as gesture, posture, and facial expressions. It draws their attention to how they and others use these aspects, either consciously or unconsciously. Furthermore, it allows the participants to experience how they use metaverbal communication and how they respond to it in perceiving and interpreting meaning. The design employs a lecturette to promote cognitive understanding of the components of, uses of, and effects of metaverbal communication, including the confusion and results when verbal and metaverbal messages are incongruous or conflicting. In small groups, participants then take turns reading opinion sheets as if they agreed or seriously disagreed with the contents. Group members note and discuss the metaverbal cues that indicate agreement, disagreement, etc., and how these aided or detracted from the presentations. A total group discussion synthesizes these subgroup reports, solicits further examples, and so on. Subgroups then are directed to discuss principles and applications of metaverbal communication. This structured experience demonstrates the difference between reading or hearing about a topic and actually experiencing it. It draws on both cognitive and experiential input to generate learnings. Here are the components of shades of difference. For the goals, it aims to demonstrate the impact that metaverbal aspects of communication have on the perception and interpretation of meaning. Second, to allow the participants the opportunity to practice using metaverbal aspects of communication. For the group size, it will require 2 to 7 groups of 4 members each. And for the time required, it will run approximately 2.5 hours. For the materials, you will need a copy of Shades of Difference lecturette for each participant, a copy of Shades of Difference instruction sheet, a copy of Shades of Difference opinion sheet, blank paper, a pencil, a clipboard, or other portable writing surface for the recorder from each group, a newsprint flip chart and a felt tip marker, and masking tape for posting newsprint. For the physical setting, you are going to set up a room in which all groups can work without distracting one another, and a breakout area, which can be a corner of a meeting room, a hallway, or a small adjacent room, in which a small group can meet without being overheard by the rest of the participants. For the process, in 4 groups A to D, each will be given a copy of Shades of Difference instruction and opinion sheet. Each member of the group will give their opinion based on their given topic. Then, the other groups will give their feedback on what metaverbal cues he or she used that reinforced or detracted from his or her presentation. The preparation, presentation, and feedback process is repeated in cycle with the members until all groups have presented. The facilitator asks each group to select a recorder, gives blank paper and a pencil to each, and asks the groups to identify the metaverbal cues that aided the presenters who were for the statements and those that aided the presenters who were against the statements, while the recorder lists them. The groups of 4 are reformed, and the members are directed to discuss the answers to the following questions among themselves. First, What questions do you have about some metaverbal behaviors of your own that you think might confuse other people? Second, how might you improve your use of metaverbal communication to clarify or enhance your own communications with others? Lastly, what specific plans can you make right now to improve your use of metaverbal communication in your interaction with one other person? In the second example, the learning objectives are increased awareness of one's own value system and the impact of personal values on individual and group decisions. Stimulus materials call for small subgroup discussions to elicit decisions concerning which of a set of prisoners will be released on parole. Information is provided about the various prisoners. There is no correct answer. Each individual, then each group, make decisions. The groups are weighted in terms of liberal, conservative, and mixed or undecided. When all groups have finished, their decisions are shared along with rationales. The facilitator then takes the full group in a discussion to draw out the learnings. Group members come to recognize explicitly the implicit values they used to arrive at their decisions, and they become aware that members of other subgroups hold different values. Here are the components of Parole Board. For the goals, it aims to provide participants with an opportunity to explore their values concerning characteristics of individuals. Second, to explore how individual values affect individual and group decisions. Lastly, to explore the impact of group values on decision-making. For the group size, you need to have 12 to 24 participants with 3 subgroups of 3 to 6 members each, with 1 or 2 additional participants per subgroup serving as observers. For the time required, it will run for about 1 hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours. For the materials, you will need to prepare a copy of the Parole Board candidates sheet for each participant, a copy of the Parole Board conservative background sheet for each member and each observer, a copy of the Parole Board liberal background sheet for each member and each observer, a copy of the Parole Board observer sheet for each observer, a newsprint flip chart and a felt tip marker, masking tape for posting newsprint. For the physical setting, you will need a room with movable chairs and sufficient space to accommodate the meetings of the 3 subgroups, without any subgroup disturbing the others. It is preferable to have a large room for the total group and 3 separate rooms in which the subgroups can meet. For the process, the participants are requested to form 2 subgroups, based on whether they typically consider themselves to be liberal or conservative. Each subgroup is told that it is an official board of inquiry for a correctional facility. The subgroup is serving as a parole board to determine which prisoners should be let out of the facility early, before serving their full terms of imprisonment. The facilitator announces that it is time for the parole boards to meet and directs each one to a separate area of the room. The subgroup members are told that they will have 45 minutes in which to determine their individual choices that will be granted parole. The subgroup conducts their meetings simultaneously. Then, when the total group has reconvened, each parole board is asked to announce its decisions. The facilitator asks the participants to try to step out of their advocacy positions and to try to put their focus on what happens in a group when its members must reach consensus on a serious issue. Finally, the facilitator leads a concluding decision based on the following questions. First, what did the participants learn from this experience about how personal values affect individual and group decision-making? Second, how can these learnings be applied to future decision-making situations both individual and group. It is not possible to design structured experiences that guarantee certain specific learnings. Rarely will a facilitator use same structured experience in exactly the same way twice. It is, in fact, desirable to modify structured experiences to meet the needs of different groups. However, if a facilitator follows the guidelines suggested here and clearly specify the learning goals, outcomes can be made more predictable and participants' learning can become more clearly focused. I am Roselsi Alomina for examples of designs. Thank you for listening.